Morning, brothers and sisters. Building trade certainly knows how to do an introduction. We appreciate you. Sean, thank you for your leadership, for your friendship, for your support, for those very generous words of introduction to all of the presidents. Of course, President McGarvey and President Callahan, President Stevenson, President O'Sullivan, a lot of presidents in the building right now. All of these distinguished leaders, to the Secretary Treasurers, to all of you. Such an honor and a privilege to be present with you, the building trades of North America. Thankful for your friendship, thankful for the work that you do, thankful that you really embody and represent the American dream. It's an honor to be here because I was raised in a union household. My parents, throughout their careers, were both public sector union employees. So I'm raised in a union household. In fact, when my parents were first married in 1967, they were both members of the Social Service Employees Union at the time. And shortly after they were married, the union went out on strike. Went out on strike to fight for better wages, better health care, better benefits, better pensions. That's what unions do. That's what you all do each and every day. Union went out on strike, and so they had a decision to make. Were they going to stand with their union brothers and sisters on that picket line, knowing that there would be uncertainty as to how they would be able to pay the bills for the foreseeable future? Or would they cross the picket line for short-term financial gain? I'm proud of the fact that when I asked my parents about it, they said there was never any question that they were going to stand with their union brothers and sisters for as long as it needed to occur. And I'm so thankful for that fact, because as the building trades do, throughout my entire life, that one decision was so meaningful that my parents made. 1973, my younger brother was born with a serious heart condition. And I'm thankful that he's okay right now, but it was a tough moment for the family, but it was that union negotiated health care that helped us make it through. And then I'm thankful that in 1981, my parents bought their first home, the home that my brother and I were raised in a working class neighborhood in central Brooklyn, the home that my parents still live in to this very day. They were able to purchase that home and pay for the mortgage because of their union negotiated salaries. And I'm thankful for that. And then when it came time for my brother and I to go off to school, and we graduated in the early 90s and realized that we didn't have any student debt, and we were trying to figure out how was this possible. Both my parents had modest salaries throughout their entire lives. How was this possible? And my mother said to me, well, I just borrowed against my union negotiated pension to make sure that you and your brother would have a strong start in life. So I wanted to make it clear to each and every one of you that you never have to worry about whether Hakeem Jeffries is going to stand up for organized labor, because organized labor has always stood up for me in the same way that you stand up for hard-working Americans all across the country each and every day. That's what organized labor does. That's what the building trades do. And that is why Democrats will always stand with you. And so it's an honor to be here as we work to execute an agenda that is being led by President Biden under difficult circumstances, but an agenda that is focused on ensuring we stand side by side with the trades and stand side by side with organized labor, because what you do is invest in the middle class, invest in those who aspire to be part of it, invest in the great American dream. Because let's be clear, this didn't happen by accident. It was the organized labor movement that built America, built the middle class, gave us overtime, gave us the 40-hour work week, gave us weekends to be able to spend time with your families and loved ones, and is at the center of what the American dream is all about. And so we worked hard to lean in to that continuing promise. And President Biden and House Democrats, we've been focused really on three areas, three things. One, save the economy. Two, invest in America. Three, win the future. Save the economy, because when President Biden took office, we were faced with very difficult circumstances. The economy was on the brink of complete and total collapse. And that's why we moved forward with the American Rescue Plan. Democrats in the House and in the Senate. And as a result of that American Rescue Plan, we now have a situation where 8 million good-paying jobs have been created during President Biden's first 15 months in office. That's a record in American presidential history. Fastest rate of economic growth in 40 years. Unemployment went from pre-pandemic high of 6.4% to a low of 3.6%. Wages are finally on the way up. And all of that was accomplished while the deficit was reduced during President Biden's first year by more than $350 billion. President Biden is off to a great start with very difficult circumstances that he's confronting. And we recognize that, of course, more needs to be done on gas prices and to address inflation. And we have an agenda to do it, to lower costs for hardworking Americans, for everyday Americans, for the middle class, and all those who aspire to be part of it. But the foundation has been laid, and the economy has been rescued. And then we decided that it was important to invest in America. And what you do when you're in office is what really is most important. Not what you say, but what you do. When my colleagues had the majority, the other side of the aisle, the most significant legislative accomplishment that they decided to engage in was to pass what we affectionately refer to as the GOP tax scam, where 83% of the benefits went to the wealthiest 1% in America. Why? To subsidize the lifestyles of the rich and shameless. That's what they decided to do with their majority. But we took a different approach because we don't believe in trickle-down economics. We believe in middle-out economics and bottom-up economics and standing with the middle class, because trickle-down economics, all that means is that everyday Americans may get a trickle, but you're guaranteed to stay down. And that is not our approach to the economy, which is why we focus on the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. For years in this town, it's been Infrastructure Week every other week, and nothing ever happened. But thanks to this great partnership with organized labor led by the building trades, President Biden and Democrats in the House and Democrats in the Senate were able to deliver a once-in-a-century investment in our nation's infrastructure, and it will be built by you. We're thankful for that. Good-paying jobs, jobs that will be provided to those who will allow you to support your families and your loved ones. That's what the American dream is all about, fixing our crumbling bridges, roads, airports, rails, ports, water and sewage systems, trains and subways and buses. And the thing about the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that I support the most, not a single one of these good-paying jobs can be outsourced to other parts of the world. They are all good-paying American jobs. That is the way that it should be. And so we stand shoulder to shoulder with you in investing in America. Lastly, we've been focused on winning the future. And in winning the future, it's important to understand that the great middle-class contract, middle-class dream, the great American dream, of course, is that if you work hard, as all of you do, and play by the rules, you should be able to provide a comfortable living for yourself and for your families, to educate your children and grandchildren, and be able to retire with grace and dignity. That's the great American dream. And we've got to make sure that we preserve that under difficult circumstances that we've confronted, with so much wealth being obtained by so few Americans. But what makes America great is the middle class and organized labor and those who aspire to provide a better way of life for themselves and for their families. So we are going to win the future. And to win the future, we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with you in the effort to make sure that we preserve, sustain, and strengthen Davis-Bacon prevailing wage legislation, no matter when it may come under attack. And I'm thankful that, as you heard from the Secretary of Labor, the Department of Labor is engaging in an effort to elevate Davis-Bacon for the first time in decades, to ensure that no one can game the system, and that when you work hard, you are given a strong living wage. And we'll continue with that efforts as we move forward. And we also will make sure that we invest in trying to lift up the apprenticeship programs that all of you, particularly proud of what's being done in New York, Gary LaBarbera and the trades in New York and New Jersey and in Philadelphia, to provide opportunities for young people from diverse backgrounds to enter into the trades, learn a skill, and be able to live a successful life. These are models that we should be supporting in Washington, D.C. And that's what House Democrats are prepared to do in the context of our national apprenticeship legislation that we are fighting to make sure makes it over the finish line, hopefully in the next few weeks. And lastly, we're going to continue to push to protect the right to organize. The freedom to negotiate is something we will never let anyone take away from you, because it is that collective bargaining, that freedom to negotiate, to organize, which creates the opportunity for middle class. When you think about the ability for people to just provide a decent way of life for themselves and their families, it does not happen by accident. It takes work, and that work has been put in by the trades and organized labor, and we will sustain it, we will elevate it, And no matter what it takes, we will never let anyone take that freedom to negotiate away from any of you. And let me end with a word about democracy. Because as we've seen, democracy is not guaranteed. It's not a self-executing proposition. It doesn't simply run on autopilot. It takes work to keep this American way of life going in terms of our democracy. I was on the House floor on January 6th. I'll never forget it. The objections to the state of Arizona were being debated, and the speaker was right at the top of the rostrum, and the debate was interrupted. I had never seen that before. The sergeant at arms comes in and says, the mob has breached the Capitol. They're on the second floor. They're right outside the chamber. And so you need to be prepared to hit the ground and secure the gas masks that are underneath your seats. Now, Sean, at that point, I had been in Congress for 8 years. Got to be honest, y'all, I had no idea there were gas masks underneath each and every seat in the House of Representatives. I knew things were about to get serious. And then I see the speaker almost violently removed from the rostrum. And I was seated in the leadership section. And as Sean said, I'm the chair of the House Democratic Caucus. That makes me the number 5 in leadership. I'm in the leadership section. The number 4 Democrat, Catherine Clark, she wasn't there. She was off campus. But right next to me was Steny Hoyer, the majority leader, and Jim Clyburn, the whip. I see the speaker violently removed. Hoyer's removed. Security comes up to Clyburn and says, "Sir, you have to leave now." Catherine Clark, the number 4 Democrat, I mentioned she wasn't on campus, so I see the speaker, number 1, being removed. Steny Hoyer, he's removed. Jim Clyburn removed. Catherine Clark's not there. I'm sitting there as the number 5 Democrat. I got to be honest, y'all. I was waiting for somebody to come get me. But Callahan, they never came. But that's all right. I'm from Brooklyn. I was prepared to do what I needed to do to fight for our democracy. I say that to say at some point we were evacuated to a secure location, what seemed like an eternity. But the most important thing about that day was that the story didn't end with us being run off the floor of the House of Representatives. The story ended with us going back to the Capitol, completing our work, certifying the election, and making sure that Joe Biden will become the 46th President of the United States of America, one of the most pro-labor presidents in the history of this country, so we can fight for organized labor, fight for the building trades, fight for the middle class, fight for the great American dream, and ensure that we continue our long, necessary, and majestic march toward a more perfect union. God bless you. God bless the building trades. God bless the United States of America.